So what's the real story with AI and art? Is it this amazing creative partner everyone's talking about, or is it just, a fancy new tool? The hype in 2026 is totally off the charts, but today we're going to cut through all that noise and get to what's really happening with artists and the art world.
And this is the question, right? The one that's on everyone's mind. I mean, you see these jaw-dropping images pop up from just a few words typed into a box, and you can't help but think, are human artists on their way out?
But then you hear the other side of the story. The big, optimistic vision from the people who are all in on this tech. The idea isn't replacement, it's partnership. They're telling us we're shifting from using technology like a simple paintbrush to actually collaborating with it, almost like having a tireless assistant in the studio.
Okay, so let's dive into that promise. What does this creative partner actually look like in practice? What is it supposed to be doing for artists?
So the hype, it really boils down to three huge ideas. First, AI is supposed to be this incredible creative accelerator. Imagine just blasting through artist's block by generating hundreds of ideas in minutes. Insane, right? Second, it's all about making art more accessible, democratizing it. Suddenly, you don't need years of training to create something visually stunning. And finally, the big one, the promise of totally new kinds of art, visual styles we've literally never seen before.
So that's the dream, right? A powerful, accessible, totally revolutionary collaborator. Sounds amazing. But, and this is a big but, that's not really how most pros are using it. The reality on the ground is, well, it's a lot different.
All right, so let's get into what's actually happening in professional studios. You can kind of forget that idea of just typing a single prompt and boom, instant masterpiece. The way pros are using AI is way more practical and honestly a lot less romantic. And this workflow here, it shows you exactly what I mean. See, it's not a one-and-done thing. Artists are plugging AI into very specific parts of their process. It often starts with brainstorming, sure, like we just talked about. But then it becomes a super focused tool for generating reference images, or for getting some technical help, like rendering a tricky material or upscaling a quick sketch. It's part of the production line. It's not the artist itself.
And of course, not everyone's using the same thing. Different pros use different tools for these very specific jobs. Like a concept artist working on a movie. They might be all over Midjourney to dream up a new world. A graphic designer, on the other hand, is probably going to lean on Adobe Firefly because, duh, it plugs right into Photoshop. And then you have video artists using something completely different, like Runway ML, for cool motion effects. Each tool has its own specific place in the toolbox.
Okay, so professionals are definitely using these tools. They're part of the workflow in actual studios. So that must mean the gatekeepers of the art world, the galleries, the big-time collectors, the critics, they must be thrilled, right? Welcoming this new wave of creation with open arms? Yeah, not so much.
Actually, it's pretty much the opposite. When you look at the commercial art world, the reaction has been, let's just say, overwhelmingly skeptical. The data we have paints a picture not of a revolution, but of some pretty major resistance.
Just check out these numbers from a recent Artsy survey. Galleries were asked if their artists are using AI. A staggering 61% said a flat no. Just 17% said yes. So despite all the noise you see online, when it comes to professionally represented artists, the adoption rate is actually incredibly low.
And what about the buyers, the collectors with the checkbooks? The story there is even more telling. For a huge chunk of galleries, 41%, the topic of AI art almost never even comes up. And get this, 16% say their collectors will actively avoid any work made with AI. The demand from the market? It's just not there yet.
But this next number? Oh boy, this one really gets to the heart of it. We asked gallery professionals if they think purely AI-generated work is a legitimate new art medium. The answer? Only 9% said yes. 9%. That single number tells you pretty much everything you need to know about how the art establishment feels right now.
So what does this all mean? It brings us to the core conflict here. AI is being seen as this incredibly sophisticated tool, right? Think of it like a new kind of camera or a fancy software plugin. But it's not being seen as an auteur, a creative force with its own unique vision. The art world doesn't think it has a voice of its own. This slide right here just nails the whole story we've been telling. On one side, you've got the huge promise, AI as a creative partner for everyone, unlocking new forms of art. And on the other side, you've got the 2026 reality. It's a production tool, it's used for specific tasks like brainstorming, and it's facing a ton of skepticism from the people in charge. The hype and the reality, they are miles apart. And that's why this term is so important to understand.
The AI-assisted workflow. This is how it's really being used. An artist isn't just typing a prompt, hitting generate, and calling it a day. No way. They're using AI to get a starting point, or maybe a draft, or a cool texture. And then, and this is the key part, the human artist takes over completely. They apply their own skill, their own judgment, their own creative vision to turn that raw material into a final piece of art.
And, all of this, it forces us to ask some much bigger, deeper questions about what art even is. What does it actually mean to be an artist when you have these incredibly intelligent machines in the picture?
And this right here is why that skepticism is so intense. I mean, these are not small problems. You've got huge fundamental questions about authorship and copyright that are being fought out in court as we speak. You have these massive ethical debates about whether it's okay for AI models to be trained on the work of millions of artists without ever asking them. And then you have the big philosophical question, can a machine, with no emotions, no life experience, can it really create something that feels, well, real? Authentic? So, here's where we'll leave you. Right now, in 2026, AI is a seriously powerful tool, but in the eyes of the art world, it's not a creative partner. Not yet anyway. But as these tools get better and better, and believe me, they're getting better exponentially fast, that line between assisting and creating is going to get really, really blurry. And as that happens, we're all going to have to figure out who gets the credit, the artist with the vision or the algorithm that helped bring it to life.